Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 99.
Holy cow.
99. Mike and I were just reminiscing about how much the podcast has changed since episode 1, which is funny because whenever people find us, we're always like, hey, start with episode 3.
Yeah, I don't even know if 3 is right because I feel like
I know.
I feel like, quality production value has definitely gone up. Even just our understanding of reselling obviously increases.
Oh, yeah.
And so, definitely not ashamed of anything we've done in the past, but at the same time, it's like, I would hate for someone to we should check out Pure Hustle Podcast. And they just listen to the first episode and they judge all of what we do on that.
Well, because you see, so you guys don't see it, but behind the scenes, we know how many people have listened to each episode. So there's a huge influx episode 1, and then there's a slight drop off by episode 2.
Yeah.
And then more, that's just how it goes. But it's all good. We appreciate all of you from whether you started listening yesterday or from day 1. And I love it when the day 1 people go, hey, love the journey, love watching, how far you guys have come along. And it's been awesome. So we're excited because we're doing it, right? For episode 100.
Yeah. Episode 100, we're doing live. We're going to go, we'll figure out the exact time and we'll put
We're
it
still
out
trying to
there
sort it out,
on
so-
Instagram and stuff like that. But it's probably going to be, I'm assuming you could check as it gets closer, you could check YouTube, but it'll probably be 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I think is probably what we're going to aim for. That way our East Coast listeners can jump in without having to stay up too much past your bedtime if you're like me and want to get to bed early.
We don't want Mike being cranky on the live.
Exactly. So so we're going to shoot for 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if there's a change in that, we'll let you guys know. But episode 100 is coming up. We'd love to have lots of people on there participating in the feed. We've never done it before. So, we don't know exactly how it's going to go. We're going to have as much interaction as we can. And we'd love to answer some questions and just kind of celebrate 100 episodes. Being on episode 99 is exciting.
100 episodes.
Something really cheesy just popped in my head. I don't know if I should say it.
Do it.
I was going to say I've got 99 problems, but PHP ain't one.
There you go. I don't think that was cheesy. I think that was good.
Was it good?
I don't know if everybody out there will agree. We might be a problem to them, but
maybe.
It's all good. But hey, and the other thing, and this is actually part of our reseller topics, but we appreciate the love on our reseller wrap. It's Q4.
Yeah, man, that was a ton of fun. I mean, that was a little bit more intense to put together all, when all was said and done than we were anticipating, but it was a lot of fun. And
I have some behind the scenes footage.
Nice.
I know Mike's like, don't record this. I'm like, we got to archive this. Like it was a lot of work, and then having to, if you have ever done a music video, which is so weird we're talking about this, but you actually have to know what you're flowing and it has to go along with the music and it has to be exactly or it looks weird.
Yeah. And so
I think we got it pretty much.
Yeah. It's weird because it's our song. We wrote all of those lyrics ourselves. And even still, when we're recording ourselves singing it, it's probably 100 takes each of we start doing our part and then it's like you mess something up. So, it's tough. My hat goes off to people who do live performances.
Yeah. So people are like, when's the new album dropping? When's the mixtape dropping? So, we are resellers, but we do love flowing every once in a while.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe as time goes, we're not just providing you content that's useful, but we can be your entertainment as well.
You don't only have to listen to us talk, you can listen to us flow. But anyways, with all that being said, hey, if we end up with 1,000 views on YouTube, which, it's climbing. I don't know where it's going to be at by the time this episode drops, but I don't know. We may drop it on, iTunes or something.
Yeah, well, throw it up on iTunes. That'd be cool. But yeah, so if you haven't seen it yet, I'm actually proud of it because, there are aspects of it. Like if you haven't seen the video, like when we're talking about making money, I had it where it's like dollar bills falling behind us, like $1 bills.
But they weren't Benjamins. That was done on purpose.
Yeah, not like $100 bills because part of it is tongue in cheek. I feel like the lyrics
were satire.
Yeah, a little bit. But I feel like the lyrics were legitimate in the fact that we were discussing things like the resellers understand and get. We weren't mocking anything, but at the same time, it's like we know who PHP is, and we're not the guys that Orlando had a line in there about a Lambo
to the show.
Yeah, so we know that's not who we are. We're not the kind of people who are like, we're bringing in hundreds. We got this, we got that. We're going to teach you how to make $1 million in 30 seconds. That's not who we are. But at the same time, we wanted to acknowledge the hustle of reselling and kind of what that Q4 grind looks like. And we're really, I want to say we just hit the monumental moment of Q4 with Black Friday just behind us. And so I'm sure we'll be talking about that quite a bit here on this episode. But if you haven't checked it out yet, go on YouTube, Pure Hustle Podcast. We are, I think, the first ever reselling rap
Maybe.
That's pretty
It
cool.
may be. I think there have been some others, but I will say it was a labor of love.
It was cool.
And I'm glad we did it. And even if we got one view, I'm so glad we did it.
Making money every day.
Appreciate all you guys and your support, and looking forward to that live dropping on Sunday. Well, not dropping, being with you all.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
We all
on
get
that
to
live.
be together. So that's cool.
All right. So we got an update episode now.
Yeah.
So we just finished Black Friday Madness.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't madness.
No?
Did you get the madness part?
Yeah. Well, let me just start off by saying, before we get into, because I feel like once we start on Black Friday, that we're not going back. Like that is that is the thing. But it's like two terrible things. I don't want to call them terrible, but two things happened to start before I even got into the studio today to record with you. One of me, don't know the other. So you know what it's like being bald, right? You feel like you hit your head on everything. I feel like I hit my head on stuff more often than like somebody with hair does. I think it's just like a curse of being bald. And it hurts more because you don't have like the padding there.
So did not see this coming on the podcast.
I slammed my head today.
Ooh.
I was working on my car, getting some stuff out of it, and I slammed my head on the hitch of my fifth wheel, which comes down. And that was right before I had to shave my head. And so I'm like, oh, now I've got like this injury on my head, so that was painful. And then on my way here, I told you about it, I was a little bit late.
Yeah.
But my car got stuck in the mud. Like there's been so much rain here in Southern California that my tire literally sunk in and I could not get out. Like I was just spinning the tire, shooting dirt up. I could not get out of my house because of the rain. And so, finally looks like we've got a break in the rain for a little bit, which I don't know how long it's going to last. But man, I want to get out to some garage sales. Just garage sales haven't been there. But who's thinking about garage sales when we got Black Friday, right?
Well, yeah, but I do miss garage sales. I miss them a ton. And because, the stuff that's selling on eBay right now are garage sale items, and they're selling for a nice profit, because one of the things that, I don't forget, but I keep in mind is that the ROI on garage sales is so greater than anything else. Right. So I think I'm looking at something right here in the studio. You have these board games that I remember buying for $7.99 and flipping on Amazon last week. And I was making $8 profit net profit on each one. And I'm thinking $8 net profit on each one. Now I did buy, I want to say 25 of them, and they sold within a couple days. So yeah, made that pretty quick. But a garage sale, that could be one item. I just sold I keep talking about the trains. I just sold another train for $100 plus shipping. I probably paid $2 to $4 on that train. Like you can't beat that. So yeah. And it's funny because my youngest son the other day goes, "Are we going to garage sales tomorrow?" And I'm like, "No, we're gonna go hit some more stores."
Yep.
Right. But it gets robotic, it gets monotonous, and it's still fun. But so Black Friday's been a little different. So before we get into that, though, let's do a little. Well, we're doing updates and so on. And so you had shared about your time off a little bit. So how's that been?
Man, it was great. Like I mentioned last episode, having a week off and kind of being able to focus on like one job as opposed to working two jobs, And let me just say, like, it's kind of nice too that it came at Thanksgiving, because I've really been trying to be conscious about being like thankful and having gratitude for things in my life. And having a week now that my wife is home, because normally like a Thanksgiving break like this as a teacher, I get the week off. And at my old school, it was only like 3 days off. It wasn't a whole week. So I got a whole week. So it's already even better. But my wife is home now. So it wasn't just me now watching my son and trying to do stuff around the house. Like it was a week of family time. Like that was amazing. Nice. Like I am so grateful that I had that time. And to be honest, I probably did a lot less work. I mean, we used that time to make our wrap, right? So we worked during that.
That was a whole day.
It was
project.
An entire day. Yeah. So we worked on the podcast. I did some reselling stuff. I did a little bit of sourcing. I did a lot of like inventory maintenance and things like that. But just the amount of family time that I got, and just to think that, I don't know if reselling is ever going to become my full-time job, but if it ever did, or like just thinking as a teacher, like when the summer comes, I know like there's some people out there probably right now, like that's not fair, not fair, but like bummed they only get 2 weeks in corporate world. When I was in corporate world, you get your 2 weeks off, and it's not always enough, and so the amount of time I get off, I just want to say like I was so grateful to have that week, not just with my son, but with my son and my wife. We did some reselling, we did some of that stuff, but just having that time is just reminding me of like how much there is to be thankful for and to be have some gratitude for. And it reminded me of a quote. The quote is, let me pull it up really quick because I don't have this one memorized because I looked it up right before we got started. But essentially, the idea is this. I'm gonna wing it because I don't have it pulled up. But to feel gratitude and not express it is like wrapping a gift but never giving it.
Huh.
Right. And a lot of times there are so many times in our life, and this is coming off for just a week after Thanksgiving or a little bit less than a week after Thanksgiving. And to take more time to intentionally be thankful for things in your life, I think is really important. And so not just to feel gratitude, but to actually express it and tell people that you're thankful for them. And so, yeah, I guess that's my update. And, we did a little bit of sourcing. I'll talk about when we get to our random stories, some of how that went. But for the most part, it was some work on the podcast, a little bit of stuff, but just a ton of family time. And that was great. So I loved it. What about you?
Yeah, appreciate you being real, though. I mean, you could have said, hey, I went sourcing 8 hours a day.
No, I did not pull in Orlando. And you crushed it out there. You were hustling hard.
Well, let's hope we crushed it. That's the thing. It's, definitely different. And I'll talk about this later on with the random stories. But yeah, it's been super busy with Amazon. And I've been able to send almost a shipment every day that you can send a shipment out, right? Some days have been multiple, which has been kind of nice. And that doesn't mean that, I'm going to be guru status or anything close. But, what I'm recognizing, there's a lot going on with Amazon now that's, and at least with me understanding Amazon in comparison to last year, right? So last year, and actually, I highly recommend, and not just because, hoping to get more listens on the episode, but go back to episode 32. So episode 32 was our episode where we shared about what we learned about Amazon and eBay during Q4. And I actually listened to that intentionally the other day because I wanted to go, okay, what am I doing in comparison to last year? Right. And so Black Friday, wasn't as crazy as it was for me last year. Last year, I remember I was strategic, but I wasn't as strategic. So if you remember last year, I went to that Walmart with the 2 floors. Do you remember that? And there was elevators and escalators, and I lost an hour and a half of time. Right. It's pretty crazy. At the same time, I went after a bunch of the items that everybody else was trying to grab. This year, I only did that with one item. And Black Friday wasn't as crazy for me. Now, it was work. I remember, Thursday night, I was up till 3 a.m, and then I got up around 8 the next day, and then I was packing everything and I shipped it out. And right now, as we're recording this podcast, things are checking in and they're selling. And, I sourced all day Friday. I sourced all day Saturday. I'm still sourcing every day. And so that's how it goes. But it's a little bit more strategic in the sense that I am not recognizing as many hot toys. And maybe it's because here's what I'm trying to figure out. So remember on Instagram, a lot of people were posting hot toys. Do you remember that last year?
Yeah.
And just killing bolos.
Yep.
I'm not seeing a lot of that.
That's good. I wonder if that's just they realized the impact it was having, or if it's just not as trendy now to do that, or I wonder.
Or maybe we're blocked. Yeah, I've thought about
maybe
that too.
Everyone's blocked us.
I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It's kind of weird because I remember last year, us and a couple other resellers, we kind of have our inner circle, whatever, and whenever we would see something pop up on Instagram, we're like, well, not going to pick those up anymore. And this year, not seeing that a lot. The other thing I'm noticing is, and I've learned this from last year, is that I knew Bolos would changed, but they changed so fast. Like the rate at which they change is kind of crazy. And so on that Black Friday, the one thing I thought was going to be a major thing, I actually scoped it out the night before. I actually have pictures of me looking in the warehouse, like spotting it, right? Because they didn't take it out. And I'll share that, in January when we do our reflection about Q4, I waited in line for a thing that I thought was going to be a Bolo. There was only one other person in that line with me. And it dropped. The time came, and not many people were picking that item up, which kind of was concerning to me. So I bought all of it.
Yeah, that's a good way to behave when you're a little concerned.
I know.
But we've talked about that, right? Like taking calculated risks.
Well,
and striking
but
when
the reason I did that was because last year there was, for instance, Ryan's golden eggs, and not a lot of people were picking those up. Do you remember those?
I feel like the Ryan's eggs were like one of the things people were going nuts
We remember
over.
that now, but initially they weren't. I remember one Walmart, I picked up 100 of them, Like no one was touching them.
Yeah, I remember your cart full of them.
Yeah, and nobody was touching them. And then I remember the price tanking happened. Like the moment I picked it up, and you got to remember, there's a lot of shoplifting that goes on. So I think that's part of the competition that we're dealing with. We're also dealing with wholesale people, so maybe they got some of those wholesale. But so I remember those golden eggs were selling at cost, which if you sell them on Amazon at cost, you're losing money. But then there was like this sweet spot that happened, and maybe my memory's off. So correct me in the comments. Go, Orlando, you are so way off. You're thinking about something else. But there was a sweet spot where you can sell them and you can make $10 to $20 profit on each of them, right? So if you picked up 100, that's a nice, $1,000 that you're making that profit. So I picked up all these items. I went to another store. This is how bad it got. There was Christmas stars on the end cap, and this item was in front of it, and people were like walking over this to look at the Christmas stars.
Nice.
That's how. So I'm kind of concerned.
Yeah.
Because I bought all of those too. And, on Instagram, I blurred it, but people knew what I was picking up. And some people said, you're good to go. Just once Christmas gets closer, it's going to hit. Right. So I'm like, okay, I hope that's the case. And there was another item that was something hot that I picked up last year that I didn't pick up this year because I only made about $5 to $10 on each one of them. And I picked up about 100. So I still made money on it. But I chose not to. And then somebody said, yeah, I know somebody that sells millions on Amazon, and they just picked up every one of those. And I go, well, maybe they make millions because they're able to afford to buy thousands of them and sell them at $5 a piece. I mean, $5 net profit. So I don't know. It wasn't that crazy, but here's the thing, the Bolo shift, right? And even within that day, they shifted. So I'll give you an example. I picked up 49 of one game, and this is part of my stories later on, so I'll share a little bit, but within that day, they're selling at Target for, I want to say $6.88 or $6.99 a piece, and on Amazon for $27. By the end of that night, Amazon was selling them at $6.99. Like, that's how fast. So I already shipped them out, and Amazon already tanked the price. Now, I know this item will go back up because what happens on Amazon, it might be ranked 3,000. When Amazon tanks it, the ranking goes down to the hundreds because a lot of people are buying. And then everybody wants it, and then they go back to Amazon, and Amazon sells out, and the price goes up, and you can still make those sales. But it was pretty intense. It was, luckily I had my boys with me, and they're older. So I remember I joked about the bungee cords last year. So I bought the bungee cords. I was going to use them, but my 8-year-old can navigate the cart well. So
nice.
So we had 3 carts going at one time, and it was nice. I got into Walmart at 6:00. I was out of Walmart. No, sorry. I got to Walmart at 4:41. Everything was ready to go at 6. You can pick them up. I was out of Walmart by 6:15.
Wow, that's fast.
So sourced, I think it was like 60 items, and then went back in, picked up some more. So within half hour, I was able to pick up about 190 items to flip.
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
That was pretty. So, but that's what I mean. It wasn't insane. Like, I don't know what it was. Maybe because I went to a different store that I wasn't stuck at with 2 floors. They streamlined the register process. And, the worst thing is this one item I picked up had the warranty protection for electronics. And so you have to hit no on each one.
Ooh.
But luckily, I found an associate that knew how to sweep it all at one time.
Oh, nice. And
so I got done with it. So the other thing now is I'm just waiting for the wave. And that's why I recommend listening to episode 32 because, it's by the time this episode drops, it's going to be December 4th. And, we have less days in Q4 this year than last year.
Well, no.
Because Thanksgiving was earlier.
Yeah,
but it wasn't as close to December.
Yeah, but that's Q4 isn't based off of when Black Friday
But what I'm saying is we have...
There's fewer days between Black Friday and Christmas.
Correct. Sorry. Right. Okay, so that's what I meant. So, right now you kind of feel this anticipation like things need to hit, but it's that sweet spot of 2 weeks right before Christmas hits. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday, December 4th, we're still not there. We're almost there. And yes, sales are picking up. And so part of it is like the other day I got into this, not depression, but kind of like, oh, I'm doing all this work and I'm just not seeing the sales kick in. You know, and you go on Instagram, you see some guy said they had their best day ever and it was like 20,000 in sales in one day. I'm like, whoa, like that's huge. And this was not one of those big timers that have employees. It's just on their own. But you got to remember, number one, you don't know what people are sourcing. Like you don't know what those numbers mean. You just don't. It could be they sold $18,000. They sold $21,000 in gross profit, but their cost was probably, you know, it could have been 15 to 17,000. If they played it right, it could have been 8 to 9,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, you just don't know. So don't do that. And the other thing is the wave's going to hit. So what you're sourcing in vain, as long as you did your research, you check the rank, you check the competition, right? You took a look at how many of those items people have using resources, like how many, you're gonna make money. You just gotta, wait it out a little bit. So anyways, I got more to say. You got more to add on your update?
No, not on my update. I was just, wanted to bounce off some of the things you're saying. I wonder,
sorry.
I'm not really on social media like personally very much. And so maybe it's just because of that. I don't typically watch like the TV news. But I don't feel, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there's been just as much, but like you said, like the stores didn't seem as bad. I ended up going to Target on Saturday or on Friday to do a little bit of personal shopping. And I wonder what the purpose is. Maybe it has been as crazy and there are those videos of people like mobbing into Walmarts and Targets. I haven't seen as much of that this year. And maybe it is out there. But I kind of have this theory, and I could be wrong, but the economy is doing so well right now. Like it's so good that I heard, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I heard that Target had like a 93% like revenue growth or company growth or something like that in this last year. Just an insane amount of growth. And so I wonder if because the economy is doing so well that people aren't as anxious to get deals, right? Which makes sourcing a little easier. And then the other thing that could help with, and it could just be that Targets and Walmarts are more efficient with how they're handling lines, how they're placing products, how many lines they have open, and they're just faster at it. The other thing that it could be that it could lead to too, though, if it is the economy and people aren't necessarily looking for the deals, is that people might have more money later on when it comes closer to Christmas, and they're not so concerned about paying up for things. So that could be a benefit on two ends.
That's a different way of seeing it.
Right? It could be a benefit on it's easier to source if people aren't out there thinking I've got to save the $5 on this Lego set, because they've got them on sale. You're able to source them a little bit easier. And then as it comes closer to Christmas, they might be like, it's not worth me going to all these Walmarts looking for them. They seem to be sold out. Sure, I'll pay up, right? Because if that's the case, if the economy is having an effect on that, it could be double beneficial for resellers, right? The sourcing is easier and you might be able to make more as that time comes. And so I don't know, maybe that could be a thing, or it could just be, I'm not on social media. Things are crazy. People are going nuts for items and I just didn't see it.
No, but they're not though. That's the thing. Here's the other thing. It's interesting because remember last year we had the Monopoly for Manila. Monopoly for Manila. Let's try this one more time. Monopoly for Millennials Apocalypse. Right? Where a YouTube video got dropped and boom. And it was already, before the video even dropped, it was already tanking because people had posted on social media. Right? And we also had the drop of Monopoly Socialism that dropped a month ago or something like that. And here's what's crazy. This is how much Bolo shifts. So Target pulled Monopoly for Socialism because they didn't like the message it was expressing, whatever. And you would have thought the scarcity would have caused more people to want it to pay up. So I'm like, I'm interested in where it's at. And I go online and right now it's only selling for $30. Where at the peak, it was selling for close to $200 on eBay and on Amazon. So I find that the Bolo shift is even greater now than it's been before, right? So I'll show you the example. There was a toy that I picked up 2 weeks ago. I was going for about $12, and I was flipping for close to $40 consistently. And then a week later, a bunch of sellers got on it. Repricers went at it. And actually this year I'm using a repricer. And I'll share a funny story with that in a little bit. And then that it tanked. But then what happened is, I don't know what took place, but I guess they sold out and the price went back up, and my repricer put the price back up, and it was selling for money. But then a new Bolo that wasn't a Bolo a week ago, because I remember, we talked to Sell Quick Ship Quick a lot, and we go back and forth, and there was an item I'm like, this is junk, this is junk, this is junk, and anyways, we were talking about stuff, and there's an item that before I thought was complete junk was now selling for a decent amount. But then within a day, it tanked again. Right? So
crazy fluctuations.
It's wild. So you got to be careful out there. Now, this is what I'll say about repricers. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, Mike.
You don't have to apologize.
I don't know. I just don't want people thinking I'm taking over. It's not Pure Orlando podcast, So I'm at the store and I'm scanning stuff, and I'm like, who is this idiot that is tanking the price? It wasn't being tanked, but there was a lot more money to be made. There was like a $10 price difference between this person and the next person. I'm like, who is this idiot? Why don't they raise the price? And I go and I check the Amazon sellers, and it was me. I was causing the tanking in the price.
Unbelievable.
I'll be real. And so,
how dare you?
It's because I don't know what I did, but I went to my repricer and I raised, my minimum price, and now I'm the second person in line on that item, and I'm going to make more money on it. But again, if you're using a repricer, you got to be careful.
Be careful. Yeah.
Because you may think, and you got to always be checking it out, because I actually listings and forget it on my repricer, but you got to remember that you still got to keep tabs on it, because what you thought was a good minimum price, you may be able to raise that minimum price now that things are heating up. So
I like it.
Anyways, all right. You have more stories about Black Friday? I got more.
Yeah. Well,
not Black Friday, just how things are going.
I'll count this as our random story section. So yeah, so I wanted to do a little different. A few weeks ago, I was at Salvation Army, and I got their little flyer that said 75% off, right?
You were so excited about that.
Yeah. I mean, and rightfully so, to be honest. The problem though was, and a big part of this, and I think this is good even just for our audience, because there are those who are the Amazon people who are doing that. They're going to Walmarts, and they're going to Targets and other, big box stores and buying a ton of stuff and flipping it on Amazon. And then there's people who are reselling a little bit more casually, and that's just, the appeal isn't there, right? And so I was like, I just want to take advantage of the 75% off that's happening at Salvation Army. And I should have kept the little flyer, but I didn't, because it wasn't a coupon. It was just a flyer. So I threw it away. And the night before, so Thursday night, I'm looking up what time Salvation Army is open. There's nothing. Like you even type in Black Friday, Salvation Army, hoping that they've got some kind of advertisement.
Doorbusters.
They've got some, you would think that, I guess, I don't want to talk bad about Salvation Army. I don't want to talk bad about any business or company, but I do say that they have really bad marketing, right? Like they don't have like very clear, especially because each one is sometimes a little different. Our San Diego area tries to run similar sales and things. But even when I go on to what time the store opens, everyone is saying different times. And so like the earliest time that I saw, I think was like 9:00. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get there at 9:00.
I've had that experience. I've been to one, and I thought I was going to close at 8 like the others. And I showed up at 6:50, and they're like, all right, we're closing in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, why? This is a highly, urban area that has constant traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I assumed that their website was correct, that they had updated what time it would open. And when I get there maybe 5 minutes after the doors would have opened. So I wouldn't have been standing in line anyways, but the parking lot was already full and it's raining. And I'm like, so I had to park down the block. I walk there. And when I get in, I realize that this store probably has been open for a couple of hours, because the amount of things people have in their carts, I'm talking, their carts are like jammed full, and they've got like basically like you were doing with the bungees of 2 carts. And as I'm looking around, they had stocked this place. I mean, you don't like necessarily like stare into people's carts and see the things they get, but I'm like, okay, this many people. And I did a quick Insta story of it. There was probably 100 people in line, each with a cart. There were no carts left when I got in there, full of stuff. And as I'm walking through, I'm like, oh, maybe there's still some stuff here. I find a few nice pairs of shoes. I find some stuff. I find this like outdoor game that I've always been not always, but I've wanted for a long time. And it's like $50 on Amazon. It was going to be a couple of dollars. I'm like, this is so awesome. But the line was so long. And then they're like yelling out, our system is having issues. So we're having to put in the numbers hand by hand. So, or one by one, like literally fingering the numbers into doom, doom, doom. And so it's going to take a little while. And I'm like, this is going to take hours. It's probably like 3 hours in line if I were to stand in line right now. And because the store's been open for a few hours and I see all these people with full carts, I'm like, there goes all the money. And there was still some stuff, but it was just not going to be worth it for me to stay there. And so I guess my takeaway from that was I should have been there earlier. Part of the problem is I didn't know when they were going to open. They weren't clear about when they were opening. And so had I been in line hours before the store opened, I probably would have done okay. I would have been willing to sit in line if I had had a couple of carts full of stuff at 75% off. That's worth it, right? Because and the other thing I noticed too is they stocked the store. Like I went to the one store where they had the grand opening. You know how they stock stores for, they brought out all the good stuff. Like the store, it was all good stuff. So that's just something maybe to keep in mind.
I love when you do that.
If you're not like a Target, Walmart, that kind of a Black Friday shopper, there's nothing wrong with thrift stores. A lot of them, I saw some people went to Goodwill's and they were having like 50% off everything. I think that to be competitive, they're doing the same thing. I think, in fact, leading up to it, they're probably holding a lot of good stuff and then they just load the floor with a lot of great stuff on that day in order to get people in the store. Because I mean, they've got to have, you would think, a hard time competing on it on these sale day of the year with big box stores. But it was clear that people were still in there. And so if I were to, would I do it again next year? I would. I didn't end up buying anything at thrift stores because all the lines were crazy. I would just be earlier. I would be on it. So that was a mistake on my part. Just assuming they were going to open at the time they said they were going to open. So next year, I mean, relationships, we talk about that. When I'm in line, next time I buy stuff, like, hey, what time are you guys opening? Right. And actually get clarification. It probably would have, I probably would have had a lot of money in profit, right? In a cart waiting in that line as they're putting in each individual item instead of being able to scan it. So that would have been nice. But you know what we ended up doing instead is I called my wife and I was like, these lines are crazy. She's like, just come home. So I went to Target. I did a little bit of shopping for some people for Christmas and the line was probably 10 seconds. Right. Like it was, the store was not that
Targets
packed.
were so chill. It was crazy because I was talking to somebody at guest service because I put in a lot of I put in a lot of orders in for pickup because that's just a quick tip. If you're trying to, source items while in line, that's one way to do it because they are quick about it. And Target's been really good about like within 2 hours, I'm getting stuff. Right. But I asked, it was like about 10 o'clock in the evening on Friday. And I said, it must have been crazy like last night. No, it was Thursday night. It was Thursday, 10 o'clock in the evening. I said, it must have been crazy earlier when you guys opened. Like, no, it's been like this all day. I'm like, that's weird. Because I looked over at my son. I go, this looks like a normal day at Target.
Yeah, they did a good job. I mean, I worked at Target one year for a Black Friday and that was one of the things. I mean, they had every register open when the doors open. And so people were getting through quickly. And once you get through that mad rush of people, then there's obviously the stores more packed than normal because there's more people and they have stuff in like the middle of every aisle. So you're dealing with people like blocking aisles and stuff. So it's not the easiest thing in the world, but it definitely didn't feel like that thrift store was intense. Like I felt like the thrift store had way more people than
that's what I'm saying. It's so weird. It sounds like the experience I had last year, you had this year at a thrift store.
Yeah. It's crazy. But
so crazy.
But like I said, like I don't know if it's something I can't say it's something people are sleeping on because clearly a lot of people are at the thrift store. But I guess my encouragement is you can still do well on Black Friday. You just have to be there early enough at thrift stores because if they're running crazy good sales like that and they're holding good merchandise and stocking the floor with it, so that Black Friday it's there, it's something to think about. And so what we decided to do instead is I went home and we had, more family time. That night, my mother-in-law watched my son and we went out and had sushi. And then we came to the office and we spent a few hours just inventorying, went through several totes and we literally just put in custom SKUs for things we didn't have custom SKUs for.
That's awesome.
And we organized stuff and, made our studio look a little bit nicer, vacuumed the floor, right? Like little things. And it's like, I still felt like it was a productive reselling day, even though it wasn't a typical Black Friday. It wasn't like I'm going out and sourcing, but it was a nice day. And so I guess the encouragement I have on that is there's no one right way of doing things, right? Like if you can make a ton of money sourcing on a certain day, then definitely do it. But that's not the only day or way to source. And so, maybe that time is better spent for you and your model of reselling of saying, you know what, instead, I'm going to list like crazy today and I'm going to be the competitive one that has, or I'm going to run sales on my own eBay or whatever it is in order to capitalize on the day or the season without necessarily doing it the traditional way.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that because, sometimes you do get that major FOMO going, I should be doing this or I should be doing that. But we had a whole episode and we probably need to do another one about, reselling your way, right? Because you got to find what works for you. And not No, I appreciate you sharing that because that's definitely a different way to look at it. Because I love right now. Like I love Q4. I love the intensity, but I could only love it this much for so long.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I want to get back to that. And I can't wait till January hits. And it's because January is going to be a little bit of this still. Because we talked about like Q4 doesn't end at the end of December as far as the Q4 does. But as far as the velocity of sales continue into January, depending on what you source. But there is that time when I haven't been to a thrift store in over a month. I haven't been to a garage sale in over a month. Well, maybe 3 weeks, but it's been a long time, right? Okay, so I wanted to share a couple of things from Black Friday, just because I think it would help others. And one of them deals with our level up review. So when I'm waiting in line for this product, right, we get there an hour and a half. And my youngest son, he's a squirrely one. And we're waiting in line and he just starts messing with everything. So we had to wait in the bedding section and there were like curtain rods and everything. So he's like grabbing curtain rods.
Were you waiting in the bedding section to get like some kind of electronics? I love how they like move.
No, that's what it was. Yeah. And so he was grabbing like the curtain rods. He's like, look, hockey sticks. He's like messing around, right? And I'm like, and so the lady that's running the line for this hot toy, whatever, that I'm waiting for goes, you probably shouldn't be messing with those toys, blah, blah, blah. I'm messing with that. They're not toys, da, 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 da. And the parent in me, kind of got a little worked up. If you haven't listened to the podcast, Orlando has these tendencies where you mess with my kids, like, nice. I'll step up. So I looked at her and I said, hey, listen, why don't you speak to the other customers and let me deal with my own children? Maybe you're better off that way. And, and if you look at me
using some of the negotiating skills.
Well, okay. All right. Well, okay. So I was going to relate it to that. So if you look at me, all right, if you haven't listened to the podcast, just drop on YouTube real quick or on Instagram. And, me saying that to a lady that's like, 5'2", kind of grandmotherly type, probably not the best, right? I was a complete jerk for lack of being able to use another word because we are a Pure Soul podcast. So I did that. And then in my head, I'm like, I just messed up any ability to be able to, maybe get more items or have more access, because this item was initially one item per family. But one of the managers came through and said, hey, if there's only so many people in line, they can get more if they want. Well, I wanted all of them. And I just burned my bridge by being a jerk.
Yeah. And the other thing too, and again, I don't want to provoke Papa Bear over there. But a lot of times when you get very upset about, things people say, like maybe going back to our negotiating thing, you could acknowledge like, you know what, you're right. Maybe you shouldn't be playing with this, right? I don't know.
Okay. So, you're right. But I did go back to that. So one of the things we talk about in the level up review, and this is more in chapter 3 or 4, Chris Voss talks about, acknowledging where you're poor or you're messing up on things, right? And then, trying to bring it back and mirror what the other person is saying, right? So I actually went back to her. I said, ma'am, I am so sorry. I was a jerk back there. I asked for your forgiveness.
Oh, nice.
It is my son, and obviously I get worked up. And my son is a squirrely kid, and yes, he does do things sometimes, and and I shared with her my story about like there was a point in time where I literally was picking up like every day from school because something would go down at school. And I said, I really apologize. I understand you're trying to do your job. And she's like, it's okay. I get it. And then we just started having a conversation. And at the end of the, after things were released to be, picked up, she was actually helping me put things in the cart. And I walked away with every single item there. So
more bees with honey, right? Or flies, or whatever the saying is.
But I wasn't trying to manipulate. I sincerely felt bad because I was a jerk. I really was. I mean, it was my kid. So, I kind of give myself a little, free pass there. But at the same time, had I not taken that opportunity to make things right and ask for her forgiveness and admit where I messed up, I maybe would not have walked away from that Walmart in under 15 minutes with a ton of merchandise. So, just something to think about. Okay, the other one is, you got to be careful during this Q4 about deals. Because what you think is a deal and you're going to make a lot of money on may not be the ultimate deal. And you got to research as much as you can. So I'll give you an example. There's an item, and I already mentioned this earlier, but I bought a ton of them. And oh man, I just think about how many I bought that evening and I shipped out. The fortunate thing is, had I not listened to someone who was sourcing on Black Friday, I probably would have lost, let me see, about $150 that night.
All right.
Okay. So what happened is I was sourcing this item and I thought it was a deal, like doorbuster, $10. So I'm like, I'm picking them all up. And some lady stops me and goes, hey, those are cheaper at the other store. If you just go online, it's $3 cheaper. Now with Amazon, $3 is a big deal.
Yeah. That's ROI, man.
That's ROI. And if you're scaling, right, if I picked up 49 of these, that's a good amount of money, right? About $150. So I stopped, I went online, and then I ordered and I ordered and ordered. And I went to every single store. So you got to be careful. Two things. Last year with the Target app, you used to be able to go in store and scan things and it would tell you what that store is selling it for. Now I'm noticing it just tells me online what the online price is, which is going to be the full price, right? But if you go to, and somebody had DM me in the messages on Instagram that it's doing that with the app. But if you go on the website, it actually gives you a better deal.
Interesting.
Right? So that night, I look at it as I gained $150 that I would have lost had I not known. So you got to be careful out there because just because it's a deal doesn't mean it's a deal. So I don't know. There's so much market share about that Black Friday, about, be careful because just because people are listing things on FBA super cheap right away, that's because they think that everybody's trying to look for a deal. But like you said, it could mean that in a week and a half, people are just holding out. And I agree with you. I've bought certain things because I don't want to go shopping. And I've been willing to pay 10, 20, I would say maybe sometimes $30 more because I think about the gas and the time and the energy spent that I just don't want to spend. So something to think about.
Good.
All right, are you ready for some reseller topics?
Let's do it.
We need a soundboard sound for that.
I'll work on making one. I think it should be like a news breaking. Like breaking
we're
news.
not news. Yeah, reseller news. Okay. So first thing, actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about this other thing instead
Of our reselling news.
Yeah. Have you noticed the new counter offer feature on Send Offer on eBay?
I don't know if I've noticed.
So now. So before you could send offers, but people couldn't counter offer,
right? That's why we were getting messages from people.
Correct.
Yep.
And I just right now during the podcast got a counter offer to the offer that I sent.
Nice.
So just keep an eye. It's there, and it's been really helpful because I think that before a lot of people didn't want to send a message because that's one extra step. You send the message, and then you have to do the counter offer on the other end or adjust the price. Now they could directly send you a counter offer. And I love it because that's the second one within 24 hours where I sent an offer and somebody counter offered and I made the sale.
I like it.
And it happened live. Mike just saw it happen.
Live.
So the pair of boots.
Breaking news.
Just sold the pair of boots. So keep an eye out for that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, I don't know how this is going to come across, but there's two things here. Have you ever done eBay for charity at all?
I think when I first started selling, I'd click that box to like put a little bit of the percentage to go to charity. But I haven't I don't think done it recently. But we did mention, I think it came up in one of our interviews or maybe another discussion that seems to be something that could help in the algorithm, even pushing you up.
It's kind of interesting. So Forbes just dropped an article about how the eBay community has raised over $1 billion for charities. $1 billion.
I like that they put eBay community there actually, because one of my biggest pet peeves, and I have an example of this, is I was at a movie theater and they came in right before the movie started and they had a bucket and they're like, help us raise money for whatever. But what I think happens, and I could be wrong, maybe different companies do it differently. And anytime charity benefits, I'm happy, right? Like I'm not like, I don't want to see charities not get money that can help them with the things they want to do.
But with that one, I want finish your thought because I think we're on the same plane.
So what ends up happening though is, so let's just say it's Regal, right? So donate money, but then what happens is Regal then donates all that money and then Regal writes all that off on their taxes, right? As if Regal donated $1 million. We've donated $100,000 last month. Well, but really it's patrons that are donating. Regal gets the tax write-off.
Huh. I didn't know that.
I mean, I like I said, I'm not like 100% sure that that's exactly how it works. But I think a lot of times when you donate money at like a store, like it's great that it's going to charity. But then like when you're at the Target or you're at wherever it is and you click I'll give $1 to this, or I'm at Petco, I'll give $1 to this, or $5 or whatever you give to help whatever charity, then even if they don't get the tax write-off, which I think they do, but even if they're not making the tax write-off, they get the publicity of it. Target has raised X amount of money for this. So I like that article says the eBay community, because realistically, that's the seller of the item who's donating money. It's not that eBay necessarily has donated X amount of money.
And they have on certain things.
Well, I'm sure they have, but I'm just saying when a lot of that is coming from patrons who are giving extra, it's really the patron who's giving that. And so maybe they're working as the platform that's helping to raise the money. Like if you go into Petco and I'll give money to this, or you go here, like, I'll do an extra $3 to St. Jude's or whatever it is. But then when they blast out that such and such has raised X amount of money, that's not coming out of their net profit, right? That's coming out of customer pockets.
Yeah. The other part that bothers me is I always go like, well, these actors could actually, help reduce the cost of the movie, right? You could charge 50 cents less for me to go to a movie with the exorbitant prices. You probably raise a lot more money doing that than coming into the theater and asking for money.
Yeah, but it's a win for them when it doesn't touch their
No, I know, but that's what bothers me. It's like I just dropped, if you take a family of 4 to the movies, that's easily over $100 that night. Depending on how big your family is, it could be $200 to $300. Right. And then to ask for money on top of that when you're already, and I would say it's price gouging because, and you and I might disagree, but you're not allowed to bring outside food. So I have no options. I have to pay whatever you ask me to pay for. For now, I could choose not to eat.
Or
you're right.
Not to go there.
You're right. You could. I could have, there is the free market. You're right. But don't come ask me for more money. That's the part that bothers me. So.
Now, you're sounding very uncharitable here. Now,
Okay. So I know. Okay. So let me get back to charity. So I like how Forbes phrased it here. Going back to what you're saying, they said today, eBay for Charity has more than 83,500 global charities registered on platform, up 26% year over year, and is enabling $211 every minute in charity funding by eBay buyers and sellers, an increase of almost 10% compared to last year. So that's what you're saying, right? And so the other angle is, and I'm not, saying this is full proof, but some people had actually messaged us on Instagram when we posted this, that the moment they turned on charity, they saw far more sales. And I go, huh?
Yeah. Part of that could be, part of it could be the algorithm, because again, that it's good publicity. You got to imagine a company is going to want the publicity of how much. I mean, an article like this is super beneficial for eBay. The other part of it is when you're buying something, if you have the option of buying something for $49.99 from 2 different sellers, and one of them, it has a little thing that like portion of this proceed goes to charity. Which one are you going to pick? If it's equal, if it's apples to apples, right? You're going to pick the one that's going to go to charity just because you're like, hey, well, why not, right? And maybe some people psychologically would even be willing to spend more, right? They're like, I'll pay a little bit up for this one because some of the money goes to charity.
Yeah, I think it's a win. We talked about this in our last podcast. So I laugh about the win-win phrase, right? But this is a win-win, right? It's a win for the charity. It's a win for the seller. And I have no problem if eBay does something with the algorithm in the sense that it puts it higher, in the sense that it's not for a nefarious purpose, right? We're trying to help others. Now, again, what I love about it though, you can choose your charity too, right?
Now, does the seller chooses the charity, right? Or does the buyer choose?
Oh no, the seller chooses. So I'm right now on a listing, and if you go to your listing, right, you drop down, it says donate a percentage of sales to a charity of your choice, and we'll give you a credit on basic selling fees for sold items. So make a donation. So if you go on your listing, you can, basically sort that all out. So I think it's a great program. I was encouraged by that. We're still dealing with Glitchgate and it's not all been fixed, but let's look at the upside. It's that season. Yep. All right. The other thing, which I thought was pretty awesome, which I didn't think would be awesome, right? So, one of the friends of the podcast who's had us on his show, Reezy Resells, and there was another reseller, Chris Anderson. CBS actually did a news segment on CBS this morning on this past Saturday, and it was about retail arbitrage. And instantly when you look at this, you're like, oh no, like
They're painting us out to be pirates and
well,
criminals.
that and the other sense is like this is gonna hurt our reselling, right?
Mhm.
Because if one of the things we get all the time is like anytime anything is shared, it's only gonna make things worse.
Yeah, an influx of competition or
But what I loved about this story was two things. One, hearing, I watched Chris Anderson on YouTube, and he has a lot of great info, right? We have a greater connection to Reezy because we've been on his podcast and we've talked to him and stuff. But just hearing the story, right? And it was actually, to me, it was a really real story because it was. I loved it. You got to watch it. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it yet.
So the news people are like, that's a lot of work. Like, that's tough. Like, that's another job. Like, it wasn't painting this as a get rich.
Right.
And I really appreciated that because one of the things we talk about is like, we can share all the information we want, but unless people want to go out there and get it, it's not going to affect things. Right. And I would say, and it's funny, I ran into one of our listeners the other day and we were talking. They said, yeah, we just like watching what you guys do. We know it's a hustle. So they weren't all in on the reselling thing. They just appreciated watching it.
It's like a form of entertainment almost.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting. So I loved how they shared, they're part of the story goes, Chris Anderson goes to the great lengths to find a deal. Logging in 40,000 miles a year in his van, he buys an item for a discounted price, like a store. And, I talked about it into Amazon. So I thought that's interesting because this story definitely represented a real part. And, when they interviewed Reezy, or Mike Resendez is his real name, it was pretty awesome because they shared, actually, he's in a Nike store and some guy approaches him, says, thanks so much. You changed my life. You helped me. And it wasn't scripted as far as I know, right? It was all legit. And it was great because it showed a different light of people that share. Right? That we're not out there trying to, sell people a get rich or sell the dream, that even on a micro scale, people are being helped by understanding reselling and being able to level up their standard of living. So I really appreciated that story.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was great. So that's why I wanted to share that. So if you haven't, we'll actually put the link in our YouTube if you want to check it out.
I like it.
All right. I talked about my feel as a repricer. Yeah, that was so bad. You should have seen how upset I got at myself. All right. So this happened to me the other day. I bought these train things, right? They're collectible. And what's hard about collectibles, if they break, like, that would feel terrible. Yep. So I sold something and I know I packaged it well. I know I did. Did I say packaged it?
Packaged it?
No, I packaged it well. With my, that's what my MA gets me. Packaged it well, shipped it out. I took great effort. I know I did because I already had something that broke a week before, which I packaged well too, but don't know if they're playing football back in the, wherever they're shipping it from. So the guy messages me and he says, hey, this item showed up and it broke. I'm like, what? There's no way. And so, I always message people, send me pictures. I messaged him, hey, can you send me pictures? He messages me back. He goes, I don't use a smartphone. I cannot get you pictures. It's 2019, my friend. So then I call eBay because I'm wondering where eBay is going to land on this because, eBay has always sided with me. I would say 100% of the time eBay has sided with me. And this is concierge. And they said, well, it's making you take the return. I'm like, why? Like, the guy broke it. I want to deny this return. He goes, well, you didn't, on the boxes, you did not go to the drop down where it said for parts. I was like, what? So even though in my listing said missing 4 parts and in my description, I still have to take back the return and give them a refund. They're like, unfortunately, because that drop down box. I'm like, well, the guy never sent me pictures. Well, technically, they don't have to send you pictures. I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you've got, think about for you, and if you're thinking about customer experience, anytime I return something to Amazon, I've never been asked, send pictures, right? Like, it's, this item doesn't work, it's broke, whatever the situation is, and they just, all right, ship it back by this date, right? So I could see why eBay wouldn't require that, because if they're the only platform saying, sure, we'll accept refunds, even though it says 30-day free return, whatever the situation is. But you've got to send us pictures. You got to, like, if you're making more hoops, that would be a more difficult customer experience that I'm sure eBay does not want to be known for.
Yeah. I'm just surprised. That was the first time ever somebody flatly denied sending me pictures. Usually they don't send them, but you never hear from them.
Right.
Right. So this time the guy was like, nope, I'm an old collector. I don't do smartphones, no pics. So I refunded the guy. Now, the other side is I wish I was more careful because I think I had a case with eBay, and I still might counter with eBay. I think I'm going to file insurance with USPS, because I think that's the easier route to go. Because USPS, they don't, you think they would, but they don't ask a lot of questions. As long as you got your tracking info, you got your pictures of the packaging, you have the cost of the item and what it's sold for and all that, they're pretty good about giving you that refund. It takes a little bit. You have to wait for a check in the mail, but they're pretty good about that. But my item didn't have a menu thing for me to put for parts.
It didn't have that as an option?
Correct. It just
had
the
eBay listing?
Correct. It just had new and used. And I didn't recognize it until after I gave him the refund, because the guy at eBay, I'm like, well, he knows what I'm talking about.
Right.
So anyways, three things take away. Number one, make sure if it's for parts, if there's a drop-down menu for parts, you go to that. Number two, recognize that they don't necessarily have to send you pictures for you to have to refund that person. And three, it may be easier to just file a claim with the USPS. So that's where we're going to land on that one.
Good. Fair enough.
Just thought that would help some listeners out there. All right. Let's talk about some more fun stuff. Have you caught The Toys That Made Us on Netflix?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
Not one?
Mm-mm.
You got to watch it.
Really?
If you have not watched it, this is recommended watching by Pure Hustle Podcast.
Endorsed by Orlando from Pure Hustle Podcast.
Endorsed by not just me. Everybody else. I haven't seen anybody that goes, can't stand that show. Hey, Netflix, if you want to sponsor us, we're here. Toys That Made Us, we are here for you. And there's another one that dropped, The Movies That Made Us. So they're going into like the old like 90s, 80s movies. So The Toys That Made Us is pretty awesome because the latest season was Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
It was wrestling figures. It was
remember Stretch Armstrong?
I don't think they have Stretch Armstrong, but yes, I do remember Stretch Armstrong. But what I love about it is that it can help you in your sourcing. So for instance, with the Ninja Turtles, I was able to differentiate between the newer turtles and the older turtles that are worth a lot of money, or they had like the older seasons had He-Man. You could understand He-Man.
Speaking of which, I just got like I don't know what it is. It's old. So I need to do some research, but I was at a garage sale a couple weeks ago and I picked up a box of vintage He-Man toys.
Nice.
A lot of them are in not great shape, but I'm like, ooh, this is cool.
But so you should watch The Toys That Made Us, the one with the He-Man one, because you'll understand what the different figures are. And it's, number one, they're inspiring, but that's not reseller related, or maybe it is.
Sure it is.
Okay. The other one is, it's a great way to understand a niche that you would have no idea about, and you could watch it. Like professional wrestling figures, there's money in them. If you find even the newer ones, you can still make money on. So one of the best, I think, on Instagram is Thriftzilla. Remember one of our first hustle of the week? He knows his toys. And you can gain close to the knowledge that he has by just watching this show.
It's good.
I hate saying that, but that's the information that we have now,
You only need 20% of the knowledge to get 80% of the benefit, right? 80-20 rule.
Correct. And season 2 had Legos, Hello Kitty, Star Trek. Anyways, we're not paid by Netflix. I'm just saying this is a great resource, right? And the other one, The Movies That Made Us, pop culture is a big deal, right? And so like right now, Home Alone, I would say pretty much every home is watching Home Alone.
We started watching it last night.
The worst part about Home Alone though is when you're watching with the kids, you have to go like, don't be like Kevin.
Yeah, man, he's rude to his parents.
He mouths
get off the phone and make me.
So my 8-year-old the other day, we're sitting there, he goes, it's pretty funny how he goes off, how he tells his mom off. I'm like, son, like, yes, it is, but don't be like Kevin. But it just anyways. So the movie that made us is great because when you're sourcing, you're able to check out items, and go, I wonder how important this is to pop culture, right? So even on this show, right, they have Home Alone, they have Ghostbusters, they have Die Hard, Dirty Dancing, And again, this one is, I think this is more for mature audiences. So, make sure you check that out.
Die Hard's a great Christmas movie.
It is. And, somebody, I want to share this. Somebody said our reseller app did to Q4 what Die Hard did to Christmas.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
I love that. Thank you, the Irish Flipper. That was a great shout out on Instagram. So anyways, I recommend catching these because all these will allow you to have greater knowledge when you're out there sourcing. So, okay. I think we're going to just talk about one more thing. I had something else, but it's like, you know what I mean? Are you okay with that?
Sure.
All right. Hey, conspiracy episodes showing up. We're recording soon.
Yeah.
And we have some ideas, and we have a whistleblower, right? For our next conspiracy episode. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. We're going to protect the whistleblower. It's really important that their identity is protected. But, when you get some inside scoop about what's really happening in the temple of eBay, we want the world to know. And, the main thing is Pure Hustle Podcast is going to try and take one for the team here. When we reveal some of the information that we're going to be revealing, I feel like we're putting ourselves in danger. We're putting ourselves in a spotlight, and we're willing to do that for you. But in return, we are hoping that we can receive some, protection from you, right? Like that, because this is out in the open, that if anything were to happen to us, that you guys would be the ones to say, we know what really happened because Pure Hustle Podcast leaked, and they were willing to stand up for truth and freedom when nobody else was. And so listen in to our conspiracy episode. And if you've got any ideas, you all right over there, Orlando?
I'm just fine. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
I still can't wait for this conspiracy episode. All right, anyways, that's our reseller topics. But before we go on to something else, I know you want to press that button. I see you over there.
Itchy finger.
Hey, if you haven't had a chance yet, we are on social media. So check us out. We are Pure Hustle Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. Appreciate all the love from people coming over from TikTok and finding us on Instagram, on the podcast, on YouTube. And we're trying to make more TikToks. TikTok is definitely, you have to be a lot more creative, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyways, appreciate all of you. And also we are on Twitter as Pure Hustle Cast. And you can always give us a call if you want to share the conspiracy episode, and maybe we'll play it on the air. I would love to be able to do that. That'd be great. And if you want to disguise your voice, there are some apps that you can use a voice modulation, so you can call it in like that, or we can do it.
We'll do it for you if you are legitimately concerned for your safety or for your business. And you've got information that you're willing to give up and divulge, we will do everything we can. Pure Hustle Podcast. We'll run it through a VPN so that it's backdoor, it's safe. Nobody can track your IP address. You'll be good to go.
There you go. And you could also email us, and we'll also make sure that that's untraceable at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com.
That's right.
And last of all, I want to say thank you for all the donations, right, in our PayPal link below. You know what? We actually had kind of like we sold our music kind of in a way.
Yeah, somebody donated right away, right off of the link, based off of the song. They enjoyed it so much, so that's amazing.
I just was like, wow, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
So appreciate that. And if we drop on iTunes, we're probably, I don't know, it's going to cost like $1.29 this song if you want to. So if you want to say thank you in that way, by just having something to listen to bump in your car during Q4, even after Q4, hey, we'd appreciate that. Maybe by the time this podcast drops, we've already, done the work to get this on iTunes or on Spotify. So
that's right.
I don't know. I really, even if we get 5 people, whatevs.
Yeah. I just love the idea of people bumping our song down the road while they're outsourcing.
It's just crazy.
Or just singing it while they're like going through racks at a thrift store. They're all making money every day.
Did I tell you my son does that? My youngest son? Like the other day I caught him and I'm like, are you flowing? Wow. I am honored. Roll. All right. So, hey, and again, the reviews, thank you so much for the content uplifting reviews. Really, really appreciate you guys are doing an incredible job. So if you don't know, go to iTunes. I just Google how to do an iTunes review. It'll give you the info, and we really appreciate that. And now it is time for Bolo. That was a terrible dance on my
I was
part.
doing like
You did it.
almost like the ear floss.
Is that what it's called?
I don't
The
know.
ear. Mike is. If you're listening to podcasts, he has his fists up, and it's like he's putting a towel through his head.
Yeah. Or remember the movie? Was it Hitch, where he's teaching
With
the guy
Will
how to
Smith?
dance? Yeah.
You know, I watched that movie probably 20 times. I don't remember anything
Yeah,
about it.
I think it was that movie, and like he's teaching the different dances, and the guy's like, "Yeah, like the Q-tip cleaning the ear, throw it away." And I'm like,
Well, see, it's funny. Somebody did comment on our reseller rap about our dance moves.
good or
And,
bad?
It was kind of like they just said those dance moves.
Mm.
So you could take it. I would say there wasn't much dancing in that video.
It wasn't dancing as much as just like straight up,
Straight hustle
moves. We were. That's what hustling looks like when you're hardcore hustling. At least when no one's watching.
All right.
So what's your bolo?
So it's gonna be such a generic bolo.
Love it.
It's been a long time, but here's what's happening. Heavy coats are selling, and there's two reasons that they're selling. Number one, they're in,
And it's cold.
It's cold. It's winter. It's trendy, but right, retail stores usually they sell things a season ahead, right? So if you're looking for a heavy coat right now, you may be having a tough time, right? But if you have those heavy coats, and especially if you have those heavy coats that certain people are looking for, you're going to be able to sell them, right? So right now is the time to get them up, right? Because by the end of January, everybody already has their jackets or their coats, but right now people are looking. So I've sold some nice ones, and I shared this on Instagram. Do you know there's a difference between shearling and Sherpa?
Is it? I don't know. I don't know.
That's good. You know, all right, that's good because I didn't know this, but I had sold those trucker jackets that are Sherpa lined, right? Sherpa is like fake wool.
Okay.
Shearling is the fresh wool off the sheep. It's the one day, and so those go for more money. Right. And I didn't know that. And I've been selling, I sold a shot shearling jacket for over $100 or maybe $100. I sold the Sherpa one. Sherpa sell for close to 100, but those are selling. I've already talked about this as a bolo, but man, puffer coats are selling. I just sold a puffer coat that I paid $15 for. I had to wear that one on a plane from San Francisco to here because it wouldn't fit with all the other stuff I sourced.
Nice.
It was worth it because I believe I paid 15 to 20 and I sold it for $150 plus shipping.
Yeah, it's worth, sweating on an airplane because you got 7 layers on.
It was pretty rough. But I will
It's too bad you can only wear one pair of shoes at a time, right?
That is true. Maybe, unless you get bigger sizes. I don't, but I will tell you, coats right now are definitely selling. So if you haven't had a chance, I know that's super generic, but you got to look more for the super warm coats. Now, remember, they are going to take a lot of, space, right? Because to put those on a hanger, it's pretty bulky. Right. But I will say I've been selling some coats and I'm kind of surprised at, what they're fetching because I bought them and I go, this was the one I sold was an Averix and I didn't think Averix was the brand, but the fact that it was a heavier coat with a hood, definitely worth it. So I know that's pretty generic, but I think right now is a sweet spot. If you haven't listed those, and we do list things year round, but if there's ever a time to list them, it's right now. So anyways, keep an eye.
I like it. My bolo is, kind of generic too because it's not a specific brand, and I've talked about like fitness equipment before, especially when it comes to the beginning of the year, and you might be able to pick it up now at a good price. But one thing that I've noticed, and again, you got to be careful. You got to do your research. Don't just buy something if it's not worth it. But I do really well on used like fitness trackers, so different Fitbits or different GPS watches, even old models.
Like your watch is something like that, right?
Yeah, my watch it's just a Garmin running watch. It's a nicer one, but this one it's probably like 4 or 5 years old now. So it's technically a smartwatch, but it's not like as interactive as like an iWatch or an Apple Watch or whatever they're called. But what I've noticed is a lot of people who are into running, they have a certain model that they like, and they're willing to go back to that model, pay less. They don't want to necessarily pay up for a model that's got all these functions they don't need, or they've got similar functions, they just cost more. And I've found a lot of GPS watches, fitness trackers, Fitbits, those types of things, body bugs, whatever they are, at Goodwills and Salvation Armies. And a lot of times they're still in packaging. Like people will keep the packaging, put the stuff back in. And what I've noticed is you can buy, and a lot of times I get them, and the older ones, the batteries aren't like, it's not like rechargeable. Some of them you have to actually put in like little watch batteries. And so once the battery dies, people are like, well, I'm done. They get rid of it. Well, I bought a pack of batteries of different sizes, like those little watch batteries that I use for different camera equipment sometimes. So I'll replace it. And I've even replaced bands. Like there's one, the band was pretty gross. And so I went on and I bought a third-party band off of eBay for like $2.99, put a new band on it, put a new battery in it, and something that I paid like $8 for, plus a battery, plus $3 for a band, I was able to sell for like $60, right? So not a lot of work. And people, if they like a certain style, they know it works, they know it fits, they like the way it looks. A lot of times people will go back to it. I noticed this even with like shoes. We talked about this with somebody on an interview, is people have certain models of shoes. Like they might not like the 2019 edition. They like the 2016.
Mhm.
Like that's the style, the look, the fit, it feels better. It's the same way with certain equipment like that. People like certain watches. People will pay for the same model that they have and like instead of buying the newer upgraded model. So something to think about. I think I see them often at thrift stores and Goodwills, and you got to be careful because it might take a little bit of work. So you got to realize like this might need a new band. It might need a new battery. But if you're willing to do that, people will pay for something that's familiar, right? Because there's something about that. There's something, if I were to get a new watch, I might upgrade to the new Garmin running watches that they have. But I really like this one, and I can go on eBay and probably buy this one for used for a fraction of the price of the newest one coming out, right? And so there are a lot of people who are like that. And so my Bolo, as it were, is just because it's old Garmin, old running equipment, doesn't mean that that's not what people are familiar with and like and might be willing to pay for.
If there was a contest for who had the better Bolo, you definitely won. That was really good.
What do I get for winning?
The satisfaction of winning.
I did it. I can retire now.
But that was great. I don't think we shared that one. And I will say, whenever I find used Fitbits or anything, they sell pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't hold on to them for more than a week. I wish I could find more of them. But that's a great Bolo. And the battery thing, if we talked about with Grant Cardone, the unfair advantage, and that's an unfair advantage, right? Because most people will look at stuff and they'll go, oh, having to go buy that little battery and put it in, that's extra work. But that gives you the unfair advantage, which allows you to sell for more and to make more profit.
Yep. Especially if you're at a garage sale and you're like, does it turn on? They're like, oh no, it doesn't turn on. Most of the time, it's just the battery. And I don't want to spend the time like on VCRs anymore like I used to. But I recently bought a PS2, which again, the margins aren't really there to make it worth a lot of time, but it's not reading the disc. And so I spent 5 minutes and watched a YouTube video. And I really think it's going to be like a 5-minute fix of me taking the top off, cleaning out a couple of parts, adjusting a spring on something, and then it'll work, right? And so, yeah, are you willing to put in that little bit to learn? And then if it is a skill you can learn, like, man, cleaning heads on a VCR does not take that much time. And you can take a VCR that's got dirty heads and doesn't run, and people will get rid of for very inexpensive and make it pretty much brand new. And I'm thinking about that even with the Korg that I sold, and it came back as they said one of the buttons, like when you push
it's back. We should have used it.
When you push one of the buttons, I need to test to see if it's even the case, but one or two of the buttons, when you push hard, because it's pressure sensitive, it doesn't work all the way. So I have a feeling that all I'm gonna have to do is take it apart, spray it with some contact cleaner, and worst case scenario, I mean, I'm not an electrician, but I fix enough little things that like I could be wrong, but it might just be like just solder another wire on there that costs pennies, right? And then I've got a perfectly functioning unit again, as opposed to just selling it for parts. And if you can learn like a little skills like that, you can then pick up stuff that nobody else will, and even use that as negotiating, like, hey, this doesn't work, knowing that you can fix it without too much work.
Agreed. That's really good. I think you definitely provided a lot of value in those 5 minutes.
I hope so. I don't know.
Thank you, Mike. Even for myself, I've been lazy lately, right? Because when you do Amazon, right, you're just getting new stuff and shipping it out. But, you definitely provide that advantage when you go to garage sales and thrift stores and you pick those items up that other people don't want to deal with. Mm-hmm. So that's great. All right. Well, that's our Bolo. Do we do a sound effect after?
I think sometimes we do. Sometimes we don't. Okay. But since you're giving those puppy dog eyes because you want it.
The puppy dog. Can I give puppy dog eyes? Is that even possible?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything.
Let's not go there.
Throwing the Q-tips away.
There we go. Nice work, Mike.
Thank you.
If you haven't caught us on YouTube, you got to catch some of these. It's funny because when people go, you guys look completely different than I imagined you guys.
Yeah, that's the case sometimes with I don't feel like I have a very good podcasting voice. I feel you've got a deeper resonance in your voice than I do.
Really? I think you have the better of the two. That's just me.
Nobody likes to hear their own voice, I guess. But it is funny because I remember when I played this card game that I used to play, and I'd listen to this podcast, these two people who played this card game. They talk about strategies and stuff. And then I met them and played against them in a tournament, and they looked, because they didn't have any kind of YouTube or anything like that. I'm like, not at all what your voice sounds like. I pictured you totally different in my head. So it is interesting.
That is true. There's another podcast I'm thinking about the same, and I thought they were completely different. They just look completely different, like 100%. So I don't want to go into detail, but it was kind of shocking. I was like, whoa.
So the reality is, in real life, we're way more handsome than we are on the podcast or even on YouTube. Like the camera doesn't do us justice, is what I'm saying. I'm just kidding.
Well, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. All right. So, hey, I'll start us off with what am I looking forward to? Because it's really simple. Sending in more shipments to Amazon. That's pretty much it. I think I have it down that, what's been really helpful in comparison to last year is I have Inventory Lab. I have a scanner. I have a more, I would say, efficient workflow. I'll give you an example. So what I noticed the other day, I had 15 boxes that had to go out. I waited till the end to weigh each box. Then I thought, why don't I just weigh it after I'm done with one box and just write it on the box and write it on a sheet of paper? I know that's really simple, but that saved me so much time, right? So all these little things I'm picking up along the way, which I know I've been on FBA more than 5 years, and just now I'm doing some of these things, but you're always learning, right? So that's why I've been a lot more efficient. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to sending in more the non-hot toys, because that's one of the things I listened to on episode 32 was that last year I made a lot more money on those than I made on constantly searching for the next Bolo. So I'm looking for that. I'm going to be, while this podcast is playing and you're listening to this, I'm already on a road trip picking up more items. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
That's good.
So there we go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to episode 100 going live on YouTube.
Oh, sorry, yes. I'm looking forward to that too,
Hey, you're still in my thunder over
sorry,
here.
okay,
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm excited. We've noticed even with our interviews that there's always possibility of things going wrong and technical difficulties, and we've never done live on YouTube, and I know a lot of people do. But the thing is, I feel like PR Hustle Podcast, we have our own style and ways of doing things. So I don't know if our live is going to be just like any other person's live. Like it's going to be however we decide to do live, and we'll probably, as we go, if we enjoy it, which I hope we do, and I hope you guys do too, we'll probably do more lives, and so we'll probably find our groove as time goes. But I'm excited for the process. I'm excited to interact with more of our listeners. And to be honest, I come into a lot of episodes, I don't want to say unprepared, but you're the one that kind of plans out like a lot of what we're going to talk about, and you do a lot of the research, and I get to kind of just be a passenger and jump in and add some insight here and there. But I feel like we're both coming into episode 100 like, let's just see what happens. Let's see what people want to talk about, and we'll talk about it. And there might be some awkward moments or dead air, but I think it's going to be amazing. So looking forward to it. That being said, be thinking of some things that you guys would like to ask us and talk to us about, and what you would hope that episode 100 looks like, because it's a celebration. It's like it's a big deal.
Yeah, and we may do a little bit of prep work.
Oh, well, of course.
Like I'm thinking we should maybe just title it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm with Mike. I like the safety and security of the podcast, right? Because if anything goes bad, like you won't know about it, because we are organic, but there are those moments you got to polish things up every once in a while. But yeah, live is live, right? And so, it could be super awkward or it could be super dope. So we'll see what happens.
I'm leaning towards dope.
All right. So am I. So anyways, hey, appreciate all you guys. It's a middle Q4. Get out there, get those listings, send those shipments, and looking forward on the other side of Q4 of celebrating how great this month went. So with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling.
Peace.